There are NBA greats, then there are icons, and above them all stands Larry Bird. He didn't wow you with crazy athleticism. He didn't need jaw-dropping dunks or flashy crossovers. What Larry had was something far more dangerous: pure basketball genius, killer instincts, and nerves of steel. Bird played the game like a chess master, always 2 steps ahead. He didn't need theatrics. His confidence came from knowing he was going to beat you, and then doing it with ruthless precision. Game-winning shots, cold, no-look passes, dead-on, trash talk, mid-play, mid-shot, and still buckets. His game wasn't built on hype. It was built on results, and those results earned him more than just respect. They earned him reverence from legends like Magic, Jordan, Kobe, and Peyton. Ask any of them about Larry Bird and watch how fast the jokes fade and the praise kicks in. These aren't empty words. They're facts from Hall of Famers who faced a player tougher, smarter, and flat-out better than they ever expected. This isn't just a highlight reel. It's a reality check, a living legacy, told through the voices of those who battled, and often lost, against the man they called Larry Legend. Before the banners, before the finals battles, before they became the faces of basketball, Magic Johnson first laid eyes on Larry Bird during a college game. And what he saw stopped him cold. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't showtime, but it was something more dangerous, methodical, calculated, ruthless. Bird dismantled the reigning College Player of the Year like he was running through warm-ups. And Magic, already one of the most gifted players in the country, knew instantly. This wasn't just another player, this was someone special.
That boy, he can play, man. I saw this dude eat Jack Givens up. He was Player of the Year that year.
Kentucky, right?
Yeah, from Kentucky. And Larry Bird was just slicing and dicing him. And I said, oh.
Yeah.
And so that was my first time seeing him. And then to be out on the court with him in college for that national championship game. And then, of course, what happened in the NBA. But I would say that we got a chance to change the league.
And change it, they did. When Magic and Bird entered the NBA, the league was struggling. Empty seats, poor TV ratings, even the finals airing on tape delay. But the moment Bird landed in Boston and Magic arrived in LA, the game shifted. Their rivalry became the heartbeat of basketball. 2 legends, 2 iconic franchises, 2 completely different styles crashing into each other on the biggest stage year after year. But it wasn't just about the rivalry, it was about raising the bar. Magic pushed Bird, Bird pushed Magic, and together they dragged the NBA into a new era. So when Magic looks back on Bird, there's no trash talk, no ego, just respect. Because Magic knows, without Larry, there's no Magic as we know him. And without either of them, the NBA wouldn't be the global powerhouse it is today. When Gary Payton talks about you, you listen. He's one of the fiercest competitors to ever play the game, a Hall of Famer, a defensive menace, a guy who built his career on locking people up and never backing down from anyone. So when Payton brings up Larry Bird, unprompted, and says his name doesn't get mentioned enough in the GOAT conversation, that's not just respect, that's a warning to anyone who forgot just how cold Bird really was.
Let me tell you something. People always talk about great basketball players, and they don't never mention him to be up in that round when they made the Magics, the Jordans, the Kobes, and stuff like that. But Larry Bird was cold. I don't think nobody ever could get out with him. You ask Magic. That's why Magic had a run, and he was mad when he had to retire in '92 because of what he was going to be missing with Larry Bird.
Gary Payton's frustration is real, and he's not interested in sugarcoating it. Larry Bird didn't have flashy dunks or jaw-dropping athleticism, and maybe that's why people who never saw him play leave him off their top 5 lists. But ask the players who actually faced him, and they'll tell you the truth. Bird was ruthless. He'd drop buckets on you, talk trash the entire time, and even tell you where the next shot was coming from, then hit it anyway. To Payton, that's what greatness looks like. Not just stats or championships, but the fear and respect Bird earned from the legends of the game. And Payton's right, when we talk about Magic, Jordan, and Kobe, Larry's name belongs in that same breath. Some players dominate the box score, others dominate the moment. But Larry Bird, he dominated eras. ML Carr played beside him. He watched firsthand as Larry went from a scrappy forward out of Indiana State to a full-blown franchise savior. And for Carr, Larry's greatness wasn't just about his stats, it was about the culture he built, the example he set, and the standard he demanded. Larry didn't have to scream to lead. He just worked harder than anyone, and with a purpose that pushed everyone around him to match his level or fall behind.
Larry was the ultimate leader, and we all know that. But it meant a lot because you were fighting against the Lakers, and Larry and Magic had come out, really become saviors of the NBA. It was unmarketable, and they began to turn that around. And Larry was driven. He was absolutely driven, and he wanted to make sure that every player on the team was involved in the process. Larry could have scored 40 points a game. I'm convinced of that. If he wanted to average 40 points, Larry Bird is one guy could have done it.
Carr doesn't hold back. Larry Bird could have been a selfish scorer anytime he wanted. He had the skill, the footwork, the vision, and the full green light to take over games. But that wasn't who he was. Bird chose the team. He chose winning. And even then, he was still putting up 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists, sometimes while playing through a broken back. He never flinched, never backed down. This wasn't a player who asked for respect. He earned it night after night. Bird didn't just lead the Celtics. He helped bring the entire NBA back to life. John Salley played defense like it was religion. He was long, smart, physical, and never one to shy away from a challenge. He went toe-to-toe with Jordan, battled Shaq, took hits from Barkley, and survived the bruising, brutal wars of the 80s and 90s Eastern Conference. So when he says a player gave him nightmares, that means something. And when someone asked him to choose Larry Bird in his prime or LeBron James in his prime, you'd expect hesitation, debate, a back and forth. But not John. He didn't flinch. He didn't blink. He chose Larry Bird immediately.
I'm going to give you Larry Bird in his prime or LeBron in his prime.
Larry Bird.
That's a quick answer.
Do you remember? I know I have nightmares. Do you? Do you have nightmares?
It's funny, but also dead serious, because that's what Larry Bird did to defenders. He got in their heads and stayed there. He didn't win with speed or flash. He won with precision. Every jab step was sharp. Every pump fake had meaning. Every pass, every shot, every movement was calculated by a mind that saw the game ahead of everyone else. And just when you thought you had him figured out, he'd tell you exactly what he was about to do, and then do it anyway. John Salley wasn't a spectator. He was right there, facing Bird in the heat of competition. The fact that Bird still lingers in his mind years later says it all. That's not just talent. That's psychological warfare. Larry Bird wasn't just a player you had to guard. He was a challenge you had to endure, and most players couldn't. When you played with Larry Bird, you didn't just join a team. You entered a system of expectation. Danny Ainge learned that quickly. A sharpshooter in his own right and one of Boston's most competitive players, Ainge found himself on a roster where talent wasn't enough. You had to show up, lock in, and deliver, because Larry would accept nothing less. Larry didn't sugarcoat things. He didn't need to yell or put guys on blast.
I got to know Larry really well, but he was a great worker, a great teammate. He told me, like when he didn't think I was taking a good shot. I tell people all the time when they start complaining, oh, the coach doesn't believe in me, or the star player on our team doesn't believe in me. I go, bro, when I played with Bird, he'd pass it, he'd get double teamed, he'd throw me the ball, but if I miss three, I'm not coming back to me.
There's something powerful about that kind of honesty. With Larry Bird, it was never personal. It was all about performance. If you could hit shots, he'd find you. If you couldn't, he'd move on. Not to be cold or spiteful, but because he was there to win, not to babysit. Danny Ainge's reflection says it all. Bird's leadership wasn't about hype or speeches. It was about standards. He set the bar so high that everyone around him had to rise to meet it. And if you didn't, the ball stopped coming your way. It's one thing to have a star who scores. It's another to have a star who sets the tone for an entire team, who holds everyone accountable, no matter the role or the moment. That's why guys like Ainge didn't just respect Bird. They were afraid to let him down. Some rivalries are built on flash and showmanship, but this one was built on grit and mental warfare. Dominique Wilkins was electric, one of the most gifted scorers the game has ever seen. A high-flying force with flawless footwork, a lethal mid-range game, and the ability to drop 40 on anyone, any night. But even Dominique, the human highlight film, couldn't shake Larry Bird. Because Bird didn't just attack your body, he went after your mind. Wilkins faced Bird in some of the most legendary battles of the 80s. And the wild part? Everyone knew what was coming. Larry would call his shot, explain how he was going to hit it, then deliver. Cold, clinical, and without a wasted move. And the worst part? You couldn't stop it.
And so we had a mutual respect. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Larry. And I wouldn't take back the years I competed against him, man. What an unbelievable player, but he backed up whatever he said. If he tell you gonna hit a shot to certain place, or if he gonna take you down to the post, turn around, hit a fadeaway J, he gonna do just that, and ain't nothing you can do about it.
Dominique Wilkins never shied away from a challenge, but Larry Bird was something else entirely. Their 1988 Eastern Conference showdown remains one of the greatest playoff duels in NBA history. A fourth-quarter shootout, trading bucket after bucket with the season on the line. And Bird, ice cold, no flexing, no celebrations. Just pure, ruthless execution. That was Larry's edge. He could make even a scorer like Dominique, a guy who could drop 50 in his sleep, feel ordinary. And the craziest part? He'd tell you exactly what he was about to do, and still do it. Shawn Kemp was built for battles. At 6'10" inches with a 40-inch vertical, he was a human highlight reel. Explosive in transition, fearless at the rim, and known for dunking on anyone in his path, from guards to all-stars to Hall of Famers. He thrived on contact and never backed down. But even Kemp, a physical force unlike most, found himself humbled by one man, Larry Bird. And the twist? It didn't happen with trash talk. It wasn't some dramatic in-game moment. It happened after the final buzzer, quiet, simple, and unforgettable.
I guarded his ass so tough that after the game, he sent a little letter over there to me. He was like, I've had nobody play defense that hard on me.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
He go, I appreciate you playing. Then he was like, I got a little All-Star game. Why don't you come work out with me? Come to All-Star game, man.
Oh, that's dope.
And let me see that summer. I was like, that meant everything to me.
Think about that. You spend 48 minutes giving Larry Bird everything you've got. You fight, you hustle, you play the best defense of your life. And after all that effort, he still gets his buckets. Then, just when you think it's over, he sends you a handwritten note, thanking you. That's not just gamesmanship, that's psychological warfare. Shawn Kemp was known for his physical dominance, but Bird, his power was all in the mind. Because that's the thing with Larry, he could break you and still make you feel honored to be there. He turned competitors into admirers. He took your best shot and then handed you a pen and paper so you could take notes. To this day, Kemp calls that moment one of the most meaningful of his career. Not because Bird praised him, but because he earned Bird's respect. And in the NBA, that meant more than a highlight reel dunk. It meant you'd face the coldest killer in the league and live to tell the story. Kobe Bryant didn't idolize flash. He didn't chase hype. He idolized greatness. He studied the game like a craft, frame by frame, move by move, always searching for mastery. Growing up in Italy, long before League Pass or YouTube highlights, Kobe didn't have access to every game. But he knew who the greats were. Magic Johnson was his hero. The Lakers were his team. And Larry Bird? He was the enemy. But the more Kobe watched, the more he saw what he couldn't deny. If you truly loved basketball, you couldn't hate Larry Bird.
Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, they were coming to prominence around the time when you were little. Were they your idols?
Magic more so than Larry. I couldn't stand the Celtics because I was a big Laker fan. So, every time they play in the finals and Bird would come out on top, I'd be an upset individual. But I admired them for what they were able to accomplish, what they were able to do, and how much love they brought to the game.
That's what makes Kobe's words so powerful. They're not coming from a teammate or a rival. They're coming from a student of the game. A future assassin, a basketball mind sharp enough to recognize greatness even when it wasn't his favorite. Larry Bird wasn't Kobe's idol, but he was one of the first players Kobe studied. Because when you're built for greatness, you pay close attention to the ones who mastered the game in their own way. Bird wasn't athletic, he wasn't fast, he didn't have highlight reel bounce, but he won over and over again. And that's what Kobe respected. Not the flair, the substance. Coming from the Black Mamba, that means everything. Because Kobe only respected one kind of greatness, the kind you can't ignore, even if you want to. Michael Jordan never chased shadows, he chased legends. In the early years before the championships, before the signature shoes, before Be Like Mike became a global phenomenon, 3 names stood at the top: Magic Johnson, George Gervin, and Larry Bird. Jordan didn't idolize them. He wasn't trying to be like them. He wanted to beat them. And more than anything, he wanted to earn their respect.
From that point forward, I wanted to prove to you, Magic, Larry, George, everybody, that I deserve to be on this level as much as anybody else. And hopefully over the period of my career, I've done that, without a doubt. Even in the Detroit years, we've done that.
That quote wasn't about ego. It was about validation. Jordan didn't just want to win. He wanted the respect of the legends who came before him. And at the top of that list was Larry Bird. Bird had Jordan's number early in his career, beating him time and time again. And Jordan never forgot those battles. He respected Bird not just for his game, but for his intelligence, his poise, and his unmatched toughness. So by 1998, when Jordan had finally risen to the top, as a champion, the face of the league, and the man who had become what Bird once was, he didn't just walk by quietly. He made it personal and playful.
Enjoy yourself, dog. Y'all gave us the run for our money. Yeah. All right, take care. Thank you. Work on that golf game of yours.
That was Jordan's way of showing respect, raw, ruthless, and real. It wasn't an insult. It was MJ speaking to someone he once chased and finally passed. And he did it with the kind of smile only true competitors understand. Jordan may have become the GOAT, but even he knew, you don't get there without going through Larry Bird first. Oscar Schmidt never played a single minute in the NBA, but don't let that fool you. If you think that disqualifies his opinion, you haven't done your homework. Oscar is a basketball legend, widely regarded as the greatest scorer in history outside of Jordan and Wilt, racking up over 49,000 career points, a true legend in international hoops. And when he's asked who his basketball idol is, he doesn't blink. He doesn't say MJ, LeBron, or Kobe. He says Larry Bird. Why? Because for Oscar, greatness wasn't about dunk contests or verticals. It was about results, about genius, about getting it done.
To have Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant as an idol. The guy flies around and do whatever he wants. It's too easy. My guy doesn't run, doesn't jump, and play the best of everybody else. He's here. This is my idol, the best player ever, in my opinion.
Oscar wasn't calling Larry Bird a feel-good story or a sentimental favorite. He was calling him the best, plain and simple. Because when you truly understand the game, you know it's not about bounce or flash. It's about will, vision, and execution. And in Oscar's eyes, no one had more of that than Larry Bird. Robert Parrish was a Hall of Famer, a warrior, a man whose nickname was literally the Chief for his stoicism, his strength, and his ability to anchor a dynasty. He played alongside Bird during the Celtics' most dominant years. He saw the fire. He saw the pressure. He saw the weight Larry carried every night, not just as a scorer, but as the heartbeat of the team. And even from within the locker room, he looked at Bird with reverence.
Oh, shit, that's the man, shit. He's like your Magic, your Kareem, that once-in-a-life player, franchise-changing player. That's the category that Larry was in. And not to mention, I like the way he led us as a team. He wasn't in your face, talking trash to you. He led by example. No matter how poorly you playing, Coop.
Parrish knew Bird wasn't about theatrics. He wasn't the loudest, he wasn't the flashiest, but when it was time to deliver, he always showed up. Larry Bird didn't lead with speeches. He led with performance. He showed up early, worked harder than everyone, and then expected you to rise with him. And if you couldn't, you were just in the way. Robert played with a lot of greats in his career, but he knew the difference between talent and tone setter. And Bird? He wasn't just a franchise player. He was the franchise. Larry Bird was a throwback, even in his own time. By NBA standards, he wasn't athletic. He wasn't fast. He didn't have the bounce of the 80s high flyers or the power of the 90s giants. But none of that mattered. Because Bird had the two things every all-time great needs: unshakable confidence and unstoppable skill. He didn't just play the game, he solved it. With his mind, his mouth, and his jumper. And as we've heard from legends like Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Gary Payton, Dominique Wilkins, and so many others, Larry didn't just earn their respect, he earned their fear. He told you what he was going to do, then did it. He didn't beat you with athleticism, he beat you with IQ, grit, and execution. He didn't outrun you, he outlasted you. He didn't just play basketball, he defined it. Magic and Bird didn't just compete, they saved the league. Jordan didn't just chase titles, he chased Bird's approval. Kobe didn't want to like him, but he couldn't stop studying him. And guys like Sally, Kemp, Ainge, and Parrish, they didn't just witness it, they lived it, they felt it, and they still talk about it. Larry Bird was the rare player who could break you down physically, mentally, and emotionally, then leave you thankful just to share the court. So say what you want about Flash, talk about verticals, wingspans, and sneaker deals. But when legends talk about legends, Larry Bird's name always comes up. Because true greatness doesn't fade. It doesn't follow trends. It echoes.